What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and we're back with another episode of the Doug Polk podcast. And today we're joined by the founder of Litecoin, Charlie Lee. Charlie, great to have you on the pod today, man.
Thanks for having me, Doug.
So we've had some community demand for many questions. You're a popular man in cryptocurrency. A lot of people have different things that they want to ask you, but I just want to start off with a pretty simple question, which is, if I send you 0.5 LTC, will I get back 1.5 LTC?
You might get back 5 LTC, right? And I'm about 1.5.
Nice. Nice. That's quite the giveaway. So how you been, man? Like, what have you been up to lately?
Pretty good. Just busy with Litecoin, pretty much.
The story does check out there. That does make some sense. I figured we could talk about something a little off topic here, just to kick it off, and then we'll go from there. But I saw you respond to a tweet about poker. And have you actually ever played poker before? Are you interested in poker at all? What are your thoughts on poker?
I love poker. I've been playing for a while. Texas Hold'em, No Limit. Yeah, I play some home games. A lot less now than previously. Just too busy these days. But yeah, I like playing poker. I might even go play in the World Series this year. We'll see.
Nice, man. Well, yeah, you should do it. I'll be here. I'm in Vegas. I'll be playing the World Series.
You want to pay for my buy-in?
I don't know. Do they take Litecoin? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, like, so do you prefer tournaments or cash games? What kind of poker have you typically played?
I like tournaments. I like to play tournaments, but I do play cash games. I mean, I play cash games with friends. And when I go to Vegas, I play cash game. I think, yeah, this is the only game I play in Vegas. All the other games are just suckers for suckers. So.
Yeah, it's much better to play against people than the house. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, what about poker interests you?
Easy to learn, hard to master. Just I like trying to read people. I like the math involved. So it's a very good game. Yeah, it's fun to play and challenging.
Nice. All right, it's good to have a poker fan here. The last podcast Richard Hart came on wasn't a big fan of the game of poker. But let's move on here, and let's just jump right into it, because I think what you'll always be most known for is founding Litecoin. So can you maybe talk about some of the inspiration for what you wanted to do with Litecoin, and what role you felt that it kind of needed to fill in the cryptocurrency space?
Yeah, so I mean, when I created Litecoin, it's like 6.5 years ago, I think. Yeah, it's a while ago. It was mostly for fun, and the idea I had was I was pretty into gold and silver investment, and just seeing how gold and silver was really good money before I found out about Bitcoin. So I kind of wanted to mimic the gold and silver relationship with Bitcoin and Litecoin, where Bitcoin is good for saving, store value, and Litecoin might be good for payments. And it's kind of just that's basically the gist of it.
Yeah, I would say that I feel Litecoin has definitely fulfilled that role. I remember actually, so I think Litecoin was the second currency I ever owned. Back in 2013, when I first got into cryptocurrency, obviously you buy Bitcoin, and I found out about Litecoin. And I remember also finding out about Feathercoin. That's not really doing too much anymore, I don't think. But I remember having some Litecoin back in the day, but at least at the time, I didn't end up seeing the usefulness when Bitcoin's fees were so cheap. So I sold my Litecoin back then, and I actually haven't owned Litecoin until yesterday. I let my viewers vote for some coins for us to buy here on the channel, and they love the Litecoin. So we're back in the Litecoin streets as of yesterday.
It might be because I retweeted your tweet, so all my followers voted for Litecoin, I guess.
They definitely showed up. There wasn't a lot of love for Tron going on, I'll say that much.
Tron the movie or Tron the coin?
What do you think?
Tron the movie is awesome.
If there was all of a sudden some real support for Tron the movie here, I'd be like, what's going on? So let's talk about like kind of the growth of Litecoin, because it's interesting to me, having been around but not super focused in on what's been going on. It's interesting to see that Litecoin, which was one of the major players years ago, still be in that top, really 10-ish range, really maybe even top 5 range for most of the last few years. Um, how do you feel about Litecoin's growth? And where do you feel? How do you feel about where Litecoin is today?
Yeah, speaking of that, it's actually pretty amazing even to me that Litecoin has managed to stay in the top 10, top 5 of currencies. I mean, you look at all these other currencies that have gone by the wayside, right? If you look at 2013, if you look at the coin market cap, actually coin market cap has a price history that you can look at the price or the top coins of that month, like 6 years ago or 5 years ago. And you see, like, except for Bitcoin and Litecoin, all these other coins are just like never even heard of them. So it's actually pretty amazing. Like I said, I created Litecoin for fun, so I totally didn't expect it to actually like be so successful. And if you asked me last year, in the beginning of last year, what I would think the price, like what's my optimistic price prediction for Litecoin at the end of 2017, I would have said if it hit 30 or like around 50, that would be like amazing. Like that would be like something I would never even dream about, of going back past the all-time high of 2013. So yeah, so it's been a wild ride, and it never ceases to amaze me what Litecoin is doing and what it will do in the future.
Would you attribute more of that to Litecoin's own developments, being the first to implement SegWit, or at least prior to Bitcoin, or do you think that's more of an aspect of the entire market? Because pretty much all coins received some type of serious boost last year. Litecoin was definitely in the top few of them, that's for sure. But what would you attribute that growth to?
A bit of both. So I mean, when Bitcoin does well, everything else rides its coattails and do well. And Litecoin definitely has benefited from that. And also, Litecoin did better than Bitcoin last year by quite a bit. And it had a lot to do with, I think, activating SegWit first, and just more people realizing the benefits of Litecoin, whether it's actually useful for a currency, for payments, or whether it's actually just helping the whole ecosystem move forward.
Yeah, I also think that part of what really helped Litecoin was when people started to see the congestion and the fees that were happening on the Bitcoin network. All of a sudden, Litecoin started to look pretty good, right? You get actually cheap, fast transfers, and that makes a lot of sense. And one of the questions a lot of people have been asking me is, as we've seen SegWit implemented in Bitcoin, and as Lightning Network starts to roll out, and we see Bitcoin transfer is extremely cheap now. I think they were at 5 satoshis a byte or something when I had to send some Bitcoin yesterday. I think a question a lot of people are asking is, where does that leave Litecoin if Bitcoin is more store of value and Litecoin is more for payment processing? As Bitcoin's payment processing becomes cheaper and faster, where does that put Litecoin, and what is its role in the community at that point?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, when I first created Litecoin and called it Silver to Bitcoin's Gold, I've always envisioned that Bitcoin is awesome, but it won't be the one coin that rules it all, right? It won't be a coin for everything and for everyone. And I see Litecoin as a coin that complements Bitcoin, that targets a different different target of decentralization security versus bandwidth and fees, right, and speed. So Litecoin tries to be more of, so Litecoin is just a little bit less decentralized, a little bit less secure than Bitcoin, but it optimizes for faster transactions, lower fees, more bandwidth. And yes, with SegWit, I'm a huge proponent of SegWit. With SegWit and Lightning Networks, Bitcoin can be cheaper, but I think Litecoin will always be just that much cheaper than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin can potentially send smaller transactions now and pay not have to pay huge fees, and Litecoin could maybe target like the microtransaction space. So I mean, I don't know for sure where we're going to end up, but I don't see a future where Bitcoin is like the only payments coin out there.
That makes sense. I mean, if you look at how many transactions per second Bitcoin can process, it just simply doesn't scale. And even though we have seen a lot of solutions lately. There's still a lot more to go on that front, and I've been just getting hounded by the nano guys, man. The nano guys, they are everywhere, and they will be heard. um, so let's actually talk about something that you discussed that I thought was pretty cool. So I was listening to one of your talks recently where you talked about the miners actually having fee signaling, because right now obviously it's just the people that are making the transfers, the transactions, that pick their fee. You actually you did a talk about talking about miners kind of helping set a market of fees. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that idea?
Yeah. So right now with Bitcoin, it's kind of a one-way street where users are sending transactions, kind of just like a fire and forget. With replaced by fee, you can actually try to replace it if it doesn't work, if you pay too little. And then miners just just basically pick the highest fee paying transactions and mine those. So there's no two-way communication where the miners can tell people what is their minimum accepted fee, kind of to create a supply and demand. So that's something that I'm like thinking a lot about and trying to see if we can do something like that in Litecoin, where miners can broadcast their minimum accepted fee, and then this will be saved and stored in the block headers so that SPV clients can actually see it and easily look at the information. So yes, currently, like if you have the whole blockchain, you'll see what transactions were mined, but it's just so much data that the SPV clients won't be able to access currently. So I'm thinking of a solution where the SPV clients, the lightweight clients, can actually access this data and be smart about picking what's a good fee to get into the next X number of blocks.
I guess I have a question a little bit on the economic side of it. What happens to the price of the transactions if now miners can also set their minimum fee? And does there exist an issue where people could band together, and if they have enough of the hash power, that they can really kind of shut the network down by setting fees that are simply too high than what people want to pay? Are you at all worried about maybe creating that type of situation for what the miners are able to do?
Not really, because miners can do that today, right? They don't have an easy way to signal that, but if they stop accepting transactions and they don't fill the blocks up and only accept transactions that pay, let's say, like $100 in fees, then people will soon realize that, oh, you need to pay $100 in fees to actually get into the block. But there's forces against that, because if miners stop accepting lower fee paying transactions, then another miner can come and actually just mine all those transactions and take in all the money for that. So there's forces that prevent miners from colluding and increasing the fees. So I think it's going to create a good supply and demand for figure out what's the right fee for transaction.
What do you think the net effect would be on the network by adding this in?
I think it would just make it better, easier for people to figure out what the right fee is. So a lot of times today, people overpay and just pay too much because they just wanted to get in fast. They don't realize they can pay actually a little bit less. And by paying too much, I mean, I think like companies like Coinbase are like at fault for doing that, where they just say, we just want to get it in, and they don't worry too much about it because they make so much money from people buying and selling Bitcoin that it's worth it for them to pay more to make sure that the transaction goes through and users have a good experience. So by them overpaying, or any of these other companies overpaying, it pushes the whole fee market up, pushes all the fees up.
Is it safe to say you no longer work at Coinbase with that response?
I haven't been working at Coinbase for almost a year now, so yes.
let's actually jump in and talk about that. So, what was your experience like working there? And another question that I had, a popular question that I had was, why did you decide to leave? And was it any worry about conflict of interest?
So I've been working at Coinbase for almost 4 years by the time I left. So I decided to actually, before, like a year before I actually left, I already went part-time and started working on Litecoin. So I told Coinbase I want to focus on Litecoin and want to eventually like switch over and actually just work on Litecoin. So they were supportive of that. I went part-time, started working on adding Segwit to Litecoin and talking to Litecoin miners to promote Litecoin. So I've been spending a lot more time on Litecoin. By the time I left, I was pretty much already like spending 90% of my time on Litecoin and 10% of my time on Coinbase. So it wasn't unexpected. I didn't leave all of a sudden. And yeah, I had a great time there. I mean, Coinbase is the reason why I joined Coinbase is because I saw that they were trying to do something very worthy, which is to make Bitcoin easy to use for the average person. And if you guys remember, like 5 years ago, Bitcoin was a lot harder to use than today. Like today, you can go use the Square Cash app and buy Bitcoin, and people can use Robinhood to buy Bitcoin. But back then, it was just really hard, and I wanted to make that easy for people.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's just, I'm going to say slightly ambitious to try and work for the biggest exchange and one of the biggest, and be the founder and one of the developers of one of the largest currencies.
Well, when I joined Coinbase, I was their second engineer. So when I joined, it wasn't anywhere near the biggest exchange. So, and when I joined, Litecoin was number 2, I think, if I remember correctly.
So what are your thoughts on all of the recent happenings with Coinbase? You know, I feel like over the last few months, they've kind of been solving things lately, but there's been a lot of issues. You know, I think a lot of people had trouble actually receiving their currency for a bit. There was the whole double spend thing, or the double spend. It was the whole like getting charged additionally. Sorry, what?
Actually charging of like the Visa cards.
Right. Yeah. Although I think Visa eventually said that it was their mistake. I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure it turned out to be Visa's mistakes, but I'm not 100% sure because there were conflicting reports. But yeah, I mean, Coinbase always being just one of the most popular sites, it's hard to keep up with the growth, right? Because when Bitcoin price goes up, traffic grows exponentially. So it's hard to plan for that. And there's always complaints about Coinbase's customer support being an issue, and I definitely agree, right? So they're spending more money on that, hiring more people. So
you know, I'll say I have not had a single problem with the support team there in a couple of years because my account's just been banned the whole time. So I don't even know why. They just like one day I just didn't have Coinbase anymore, and then it became annoying because I wanted to use GDAX and like, nope, you're not allowed here. I'm like, all right, I don't know what I did.
Yeah, that kind of sucks because when they ban you, they're not allowed to tell you why. Like, I think it's for a certain reason, like to follow the AML laws, like you just can't tell people why they're banned, and that's unfortunate. I mean, I think they would love to tell you and help you like fix the issue or let you like convince them you didn't actually do what they thought you did. But it is what it is. I mean, yeah. It's highly regulated.
To be fair, Bank of America did the same thing to me. Maybe it's not the companies that the problem here.
Maybe it's you. I mean, did you like send Bitcoins to a poker site?
Oh, you know what? I never thought about that, but maybe that played a role.
I'm pretty sure it did.
I actually never even thought about that. All right. Well, there you have it. Let's actually, one more thing on the Coinbase subject I wanted to talk about. I was really unhappy with what happened in December when they added Bitcoin Cash. Did you follow that whole fiasco?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of totally surprised also because I think like a couple of weeks before that I made a public tweet saying that I don't think they would add Bitcoin Cash because for one, it's confusing. They took them so long to add Litecoin, and the reason why they didn't add Litecoin is because it was confusing for the user, right? So I mean, talk about confusing for the user, right? And then I also highlighted that it would be operationally hard to like launch Bitcoin Cash on Coinbase right away. They needed to launch Bitcoin Cash on GDAX first, make sure everything's working properly, make sure the site is still up and the volume is under control before they launch it on, before they even talk about launching it on Coinbase. I mean, that's what we did with Litecoin. We launched it on GDAX first. Everything's good. When the volume crept up and there was enough volume, then we launched it on Coinbase. So I made a tweet saying that like if I were working there, I would not advise like doing what they did, and then they went ahead and did what they did and caused the whole site to crash and the whole market to blow up. So yeah.
There were a few issues with that, and I've actually seen a lawsuit. I think today in the news today that there are accusations of insider trading because I'm not sure if you followed the price too much over the course of that for Bitcoin Cash, but the day before the announcement that the price of Bitcoin Cash, I want to say it went up 30 or 40% over the course of the
I
day.
think it might have. I saw something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, culminating in the announcement, and it's like, okay, so yeah, that's not related at all, right?
It's like very likely to be related, but I mean, it could be not related, and it's easier to. I mean, it's very easy to like try to draw connections. For example, like when I sold my Litecoins, and then the price proceeded to drop after that, people were like saying, "Hey, you knew the price was going to drop. That's why you sold." I mean, how can I know the price is going to drop, right? So, I mean, it's easier to say that after the fact and say this is definitely like insider trading. I mean, I think there might be some. It's just hard to keep information tight. So, like, if all the employees knew, there were like more than 100 employees, and they told like their best friend or something saying that, oh, I think Coinbase is going to do Bitcoin Cash, but don't tell anyone. I mean, that could just leak, right? I mean, I'm just speculating, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It's like, hey guys, so there's some information we've got. It can make you a lot of money, but just don't tell anybody. Oh, by the way, also it's anonymous on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much money that could be made, so it's hard to keep a tight lid on it. Unlike like Google launching product or Apple launching product, Apple launching their next iPhone that has a certain feature, they can't even keep that information secret, right? When there's like almost no money to be made from that.
What do you think Coinbase should do to try and prevent this in the future? Because I imagine over time Coinbase will add more currencies. So what do you think would be a way that they should do it? Maybe they should make like an announcement saying at some point they're going to add this currency and then do it down the road, or what do you think could be good steps to help protect people from shiesty announcements and trading before they're made?
I think they're doing all they can right now. Like they didn't even tell me anything, right? So like there people tell me they don't cash, we're not they're gonna trade it. So there's a strict policy about not telling. But it's just I don't think it's something they can really prevent from it leaking because there's so many employees of Coinbase. I would say the best thing for them to do is to actually just announce when they decide that they're gonna, like if they decided in September that they're going to do Bitcoin Cash, and just say we're going to do Bitcoin Cash by then. We're going to actually trade Bitcoin Cash by the end of the year. Well, if they're working on it, just announce it instead of just surprise everyone with a finished product.
That makes a lot of sense. I could also see from a business perspective, though, you don't want to say, guys, we're going to do something.
Correct.
And then let's say you get like a month or two into it and you're like, I don't think we're going to be able to pull this off.
Yeah,
look bad.
Exactly. And also you don't want to give your competitors a heads up that you're going to do it. Right. So, I mean, I worked there for so many years. I know why they're doing this, right? I mean, it's the best for the business to actually under promise and over deliver and actually just launch it when you're ready. And we did that with everything. Like we launched Exchange out of nowhere, right? It was a total surprise to everyone. It caused the Bitcoin price to go up like 10, 20%. Back then, the Bitcoin price was like $300, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember.
From like 260 to 300 in like a day because we launched GDAX. Back then, it was called Coinbase Exchange. But yeah, that's the way Coinbase has always worked.
All right, well, definitely some interesting insight there. So let's talk about the selling your Litecoin. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. I've got to say, when I saw this tweet from you, it was a few months ago now, I was absolutely shocked. Can you maybe discuss a little bit about what you tweeted and what you did and what your general thoughts are?
Yeah, I was pretty shocked when I saw that too myself. Yeah, so I'll give you some idea what went out what I was thinking of. So I was I think over the past like year, I realized how much influence I had over the price. And a lot of times when I was tweeting a lot. So a lot of times when I was tweeting, I saw like the price go up. And I just always questioned like, am I like kind of pumping Litecoin to help me financially, or is this like the best for the coin, right? So I decided that I kind of want to separate the two. Like, I've made quite a bit from Litecoin already, and I can actually focus and work on Litecoin full time now without having to work for someone else. So given that, I don't need to tie my future finances with Litecoin, and I can sell everything right now or back then and just focus on the project and not have to worry about like the price of the coin, how that's going to affect my wealth, I guess. So and I think certain decisions where not to talk about the coin, where not to like post a tweet, could affect the short-term price of Litecoin, yet be harmful for the future of not be the best move for the project itself, and vice versa, right? By not saying something now that would help the price today would be best for the project, right? So like certain things, if I announce things today, it's going to help the price in the short term, but it's not the best move for the project. So I think I just want to separate the two and just focus on the project as opposed to the price.
Yeah, but if you're going to hold it for forever, then you're in for the long term, right? You don't have to worry if it swings day to day because like you're going the whole way. So I feel a little bit like to some people it felt like you're kind of, I mean, I know this isn't really what it is, but you're sort of the CEO of Litecoin, kind of in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the CEO sold his shares. So I feel like a lot of people felt that you weren't getting behind it. Like I guess maybe my viewpoint is it's totally fine to make money in anything as long as you do it the right way. And if your heart really is set on, I'm going to make sure that for the long-term success of Litecoin, I'm going to do the right thing, then who cares if you make money? Like that's all in the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, who cares if I don't, right? On the flip side of it. So
Sure.
for me, it's unlike the CEO where without shares in the company, they have no incentive to make the company better. For Litecoin, for me, I mean, this is the coin I created, right? So if it does well, I get other benefits that more so than financial, right? Like recognition, like all around people recognize me as the creator of Litecoin, a $10 billion coin, right? So, I mean, helping Litecoin succeed does more good for me than just the financial benefit. And yeah, so it's rewarding by itself without the financial benefit.
Yeah, it's your baby, man. Like you created
Yeah.
something that has actually changed the world. Like how many people can say that?
Yeah, not yet. It hasn't changed the world yet.
I mean, how many billions does it have to go to before you can say that? Not even going to answer. I like it.
No.
All right, moving on. All right, so this was another good question that I got. Again, shout out to our cryptocurrency. They had a lot of really great questions. It's another one that I got, and it was if you could change one thing about Litecoin, what would it be? And it could be technical or non-technical. It could be whatever you want. If you could go back in time and change one thing, what would it be?
I'll give you a funny answer. I'll call
Like
it Bitcoin. I'll call it Bitcoin Lite.
Bitcoin Lite. Nice.
For a serious answer, if I can change one thing, I would say I should have stayed anonymous like Satoshi did.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I actually it's kind of beautiful with the way that the whole Satoshi thing has sort of played out because I think that it's quite likely Satoshi's actually passed away, but in the chance that he's actually still here, he doesn't have to deal with all this bullshit. He doesn't have to deal with people being like, why did you sell some Bitcoin, man? Like he doesn't have to deal with any of that. So, and I also do think that, yeah, in some ways it makes Bitcoin a little weaker to not have, its founder there speaking for it. But in other ways, it kind of makes it stronger because it kind of glues the community more together and it's less based around a person. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a trade-off. I think for Bitcoin, this was like the best move that Satoshi could have done, because to be like the most decentralized currency, the king of cryptocurrency, without a leader, there's nothing for anyone to attack. Right? So people attack me all the time, and they hurt Litecoin when they do that. And there's a central figure for people to attack. And if in the future, let's say governments want to take down Bitcoin, it's much harder because you can't like control, you can't attack or can put someone in jail and really hurt the coin, right? And I think hopefully they won't do that to me, but um, but then on the flip side is with me around, um, things can be more efficient, right? I can kind of push forth my vision and try to steer Litecoin towards what I believe is the best path. Whereas with Bitcoin, there is no central figure to do that, and you have people like Roger Ver coming out and saying that this is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin because it follows the white paper closely. And there's no one to come out to say that, no, Roger, you're wrong because I didn't design Bitcoin to be like Bitcoin Cash. Whereas like if, for example, with Litecoin Cash came out, I can come out and say, hey, this Litecoin is my vision. Litecoin Cash is just someone else's project. It's not the real Litecoin.
What exactly was Litecoin Cash? I saw you, I believe you call it a scam. And so I was like, I'm not even going to look into this because like, it doesn't really matter. But what was Litecoin Cash?
Um, Litecoin Cash is, I guess it's kind of similar to Bitcoin Gold, where they forked Litecoin, changed the proof of work algorithm, and pre-mined a bunch of coins. So it followed the same path as Bitcoin Gold. So I called it a scam because, for one, they basically pre-mined a lot of coins and tried to pump it. And by using the name Litecoin, it got a lot of people thinking that it's a legit fork of Litecoin, or a coin that I supported. So in that sense, it's a scam. I actually don't know what's going on with Litecoin right now, whether or not it's maintained, whether the project is still going on, what the price is. I haven't kept track of it. And since I didn't really own any Litecoin, I don't have any Litecoin Cash either.
You missed out, man. Litecoin Cash could be the future. Speaking of Bitcoin Gold, just off topic here for a moment, I actually liked the premise of what Bitcoin Gold was trying to do. I didn't really look too far into it because it didn't seem like something that was going to really take off. But they tried to take away the ASIC mining, right?
Yeah, they made it. They switched it to what, Equihash or something. They made it more like GPU mineable. Yeah.
I worry about that sometimes when I look at the mining, particularly in Bitcoin, where you start to look at some of these mining pools and some of the big players, and you start to feel like, yeah, there are certain people that do end up having a lot of power because of how much of the mining pool that they control. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a temporary problem. I think we're seeing like more players jumping into Bitcoin mining. I mean, even here, like Samsung is looking into it. So there's like the Halong miners. There's a few other companies doing it. I think it's going to be more and more players, and it won't be like just one player dominating the whole space. It was definitely a bad thing with one player dominating the whole space. I think it's the major reason why SegWit took so long to activate, is because this one player did not like SegWit, whether it's because it broke their ASIC boost, their covert ASIC boost, or whether because they actually do believe that SegWit hurts their future profitability. Whatever the case is, SegWit was delayed because Bitcoin mining was centralized.
I'm sure that they said that they would tell themselves that it's because it's not the right thing for Bitcoin. But I mean, if it's going to affect you financially, then obviously you have a stake in the game for what happens, right? So
correct. And Bitcoin is designed for everyone to be selfish. So if Bitmain really believed that SegWit hurts their business, then they have every right to block it.
So let's talk about Roger Ver for a little bit here, because I saw your tweet to Roger where you just said basically, stop calling it Bitcoin Core. Nobody calls it that other than you. Stop confusing people. Why are you, or whatever your tweet said. Can you expand a little bit on the whole Roger Ver thing and what your opinion is?
The funny thing is, a lot of people replied to that. A lot of Bitcoin Cash supporters replied to that and said, I also call it Bitcoin Core. I'm like, I mean, I don't like Bitcoin Cash. I think, in a sense that it's very similar to all these other altcoins out there. I mean, there's already Litecoin that's doing something similar. I mean, it's kind of just, the only saving grace is that it's called Bitcoin. And that's why they hate the name Bcash so much, even though I think it's actually a better name for SEO or even just the name itself is actually a cool and easy to remember name and easy to say. Bitcoin Cash is such a mouthful. But then they want to keep the word Bitcoin there because they want to be the real Bitcoin. So if the word Bitcoin is not there, then they can't be Bitcoin. And that's also, I believe, why they want to call Bitcoin Bitcoin Core, because then you pull Bitcoin down to the same level as Bitcoin Cash. One is some Bitcoin Cash supporters are saying like Bitcoin no longer exists because it's split into two. There's Bitcoin Core and there's Bitcoin Cash. Yeah, you're shaking your head, right?
Yeah,
And that's what they're pushing. That's the narrative they're pushing, right? They're pushing for so that it confuses people and people realize, hey, there's two Bitcoins, and I think Bitcoin Cash is a better Bitcoin. I think that's just disingenuous, and I called Roger out on that and saying that like everyone calls it Bitcoin. Like you're calling it Bitcoin Core just to pull it down and just stop with this bullshit, right?
yeah, that's 100% what's going on. Just a quick funny side story I saw on Reddit today. I saw a Bitcoin Cash advocate attacking a Bitcoin advocate and said to them, "Yeah, well, you B Core girls are just terrible." And then the person beneath said, like, "Oh, the irony of saying that," because if he said B Cash, obviously he'd get upset. I want to talk about Bitcoin Cash here just for a second too. So, you know, I will say that I do think a lot of the Bitcoin Cash community, maybe definitely not all, but a lot of them do have their heart sort of in the right place, whether they've been misled or not, in that they feel that increasing the block size is the way to solve a lot of the problems that we're facing. Now, I believe that you've said in the past that that's not really a long-term solution. That's more of a short-term one. I don't want to paraphrase what your point was, but can you talk maybe about increasing the block size as a solution compared to some of the stuff we're seeing with Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I'll step back a bit and talk about like this whole situation, right? The reason why there are two camps is because Bitcoin in the early days actually satisfied the values of both camps. So because of the block rewards. So when Bitcoin was designed, the block rewards were high. Like block rewards paid for everything, and over time, block rewards got halved. It's been halved twice already. So it used to be paying out 50 Bitcoins a block. Now it's 12.5 Bitcoins a block, and the mining transaction fees will start having to pay for the system, right? A decentralized system is inefficient by definition because you just have to support all these nodes running. So someone has to pay for it, and initially the block reward paid for everything, and when the block reward is paying for everything, Bitcoin is kind of perfect. There's no trade-offs because Bitcoin was fast, it was cheap, it was decentralized, and it was secure. And I think these four like aspects are the four major things. And as time goes on, Bitcoin had to kind of pick what was the most important feature for Bitcoin. And so security, decentralization, speed or throughput, and fees, right? And the reason why Bitcoin opted for optimizing on security and decentralization is because those two provided the uncensorability aspect of Bitcoin, which is what gives Bitcoin value in my mind. It's what separates Bitcoin from PayPal, from Visa, from all these other payment methods, is the fact that you can't, it's uncensorable. You can't block any transaction that you don't like. Governments can't block it, companies can't block it, and you can't reverse it. And that's what security and decentralization gives you. Whereas, and when you're optimizing for those two, you have to give up a bit on the speed and the fees and the throughput. And that's what happened, right? Bitcoin went for like the gold aspect of it, where it's a good store of value and less of a means of payment. And people like Roger Ver got into Bitcoin because of course they appreciated the insensibility aspect of it, but they really appreciated the cheap and the cheap payments and also the unlimited payments part of it. And when that started becoming not the case, they wanted to push Bitcoin back towards that aspect. And to me, that's like PayPal. That's just a better version of PayPal, right? So I would rather Bitcoin choose the uncensorability part of it rather than go towards like the cheap and unlimited payments. So that's why there's two camps, because Bitcoin had to choose, and I think it's making the right choice, which is to focus on being the most decentralized and most secure coin.
Does a block size increase necessarily change those things though?
It changes a little bit. It's debatable how much a 2 megabyte increase will actually affect decentralization. In my mind, it probably wouldn't. Like a 1 megabyte to 2 megabyte increase wouldn't. To some people, we shouldn't do it because it will hurt. So it's hard for Bitcoin to actually do a hard fork unless there's consensus, right? And as we saw, it didn't reach consensus. SegWit 2x did not reach consensus. So that's why we didn't do a hard fork. I think if everybody agreed to do a hard fork and we moved to 2 megabyte blocks, it's not really going to hurt decentralization that much. But the fact that we didn't come to that decision is something that we have to accept.
SegWit already increased block size to some extent, right? Isn't it like 1.6 or?
Yeah, it's about like a 2x increase, I think. Yeah, depends on how you calculate it. So yeah, so when I saw SegWit like 2 years ago, I saw it as like a amazing solution, right? Not only did it solve transaction malleability, which makes Lightning Network possible, it solved these other issues, and it gave us a effective 2x block size increase with just a soft fork. So it was like a win-win-win solution. And I was just really upset that the market like turned it down effectively because Bitmain allegedly was the one that blocked it from happening, right? And there was all this FUD being thrown about SegWit having anyone can spend transactions, and the fact that it was like there's all this FUD thrown around about SegWit, and we don't know where it was coming from. It could be miners doing it, and it also could be miners trying to like hike up the fees to make Bitcoin unusable. So it's hard to see what exactly is going on. And at that time, I saw that I could actually help the situation with getting SegWit on Litecoin to prove that it works, to kind of help Bitcoin get SegWit also. And so that's what I did.
Yeah, I saw your Medium post from in January of last year about what you saw the future being, with SegWit, with the Lightning Network, and the role that would play to help Bitcoin. It's actually like, I mean, what you wrote there, a lot of it's come true to some extent. Maybe not the connection between Litecoin and Bitcoin using Lightning, but is that something that you see happening down the road?
Yeah, atomic swap via Lightning is it's something that on different networks so that you can send Bitcoin and receive Litecoin on the other end, and vice versa. I think that's going to be very, very cool.
Yeah, that does sound cool. What sort of timeline do you see that becoming a reality?
I mean, they've already done a test of it. It's proven to work. In terms of reality, I think it's still months down the line. I think in the end, it's all about how easy it is. So Lightning currently works, but it's just not easy to use, right? So people have to create the UI for it. I think what matters is that at the end of all this, when you're sending money, you don't really need to know like whether it's on chain, whether it's Lightning, whether it's converted to Litecoin by a few nodes and it comes back on the Bitcoin network. I mean, that could happen, right? You could send Bitcoin to someone and actually can go through the Litecoin network if that's cheaper and faster and more effective. So similar to how when you're swiping a credit card, you don't know like which however many banks it talks to before your transaction is settled or is approved. And I see a future where crypto payments is done seamlessly. I can't wait for that to happen.
I think that's the world that we'd all like to see. It's just a question of when does it become reality?
Yeah, and I mean everyone's working towards that reality.
So let's talk about the flappening. This was another. By the way, if you guys don't follow Charlie on Twitter, you got to head over there and follow him. At Satoshi Light, I believe is your screen name. This was another outstanding tweet. So you want to tell us a little bit about the flappening?
Yeah. So there's the flippening, which is Ethereum flipping Bitcoin's price, right? And in my tweet I said I don't think Ethereum will flip Bitcoin's price. I think Bitcoin will always, by price I mean market cap, right? The whole market cap of Ethereum versus Bitcoin. I think that Bitcoin will always be the king of crypto. It's always be the most valuable coin. I think if there's a space for Ethereum, but I don't think it being like the the number one coin. But I do think that Litecoin will flip Bitcoin Cash, and I call that the flattening, because Litecoin's like unofficial mascot is like the chicken. So made a joke, called it the flattening, and I think the flattening is going to happen this year. I'm looking forward to it.
You did see the guy at the SEC hearing who was dressed up as your avatar, right?
I did, and he actually wasn't dressed up as my avatar, but he just really looks like my avatar.
I don't know, man. At first, I thought it was just someone just like there just for the lulz, but then someone said it was your avatar, and it was like very, very similar.
It is very similar, but he actually wasn't dressed as my avatar. He was dressed as, he had like a red hair and just goggles for glasses, but he looks like my profile pic for on Twitter. Yeah, it's hilarious.
So going back to the flattening, I do see Bitcoin Cash as sort of a direct competitor to Litecoin in terms of what it's trying to do. It's just Litecoin knows what it is.
Correct. We know where we where we stand. I'll tell you a few differences between Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash. So obviously Litecoin has a longer history. It's been around for longer. Bitcoin Cash, the benefit of Bitcoin Cash is that it has Bitcoin names, so it can confuse people, which works. And also because it's like a free airdrop, a lot of wallets and exchanges were kind of forced to support it because there's some value, so they have to unlock that value for their customers. So they were forced to add to support Bitcoin Cash, and whereas they're not forced to support Litecoin. So certain wallets started supporting Bitcoin Cash before, or they don't support Litecoin yet. But Litecoin has been around for a lot longer, and it's supported on more exchanges. I think one of the major disadvantage of Bitcoin Cash is actually the security, because it has less than 10% of the hash rate of Bitcoin, and any small Bitcoin mining pool is potential a threat to Bitcoin Cash if they wanted to attack the Bitcoin Cash network, double spend, or do like some kind of hash rate attack. Whereas Litecoin has the most script hash rate, and there's no other coin that's competing for that or that has any amount of script hash rate close to Litecoin's hash rate. So Litecoin has no, in that aspect, the security of Litecoin is much more stronger than the security of Bitcoin Cash.
I might counter though, in defense of Bitcoin Cash. How many attacks have we seen in the history of any major cryptocurrency? We've never actually seen one.
We have, well, actually, a few coins have been killed by attacks just for fun. This was like 4 years ago, where there's certain coins that were doing merge mining with Bitcoin, and then a pool decided to just attack that coin and just killed it. I think the coin, like barbecue coin, does that still exist? I don't think it's still around.
Sounds legit.
But, yeah, it got killed by a pool because it was just for fun. So I don't think Bitcoin Cash, any pool will start attacking Bitcoin Cash because they don't hate money, right? Bitcoin Cash helps them make money if they're mining Bitcoin Cash. So unless there's a reason to, but it's always a threat, right? Not having been attacked doesn't mean that it's not a security hole.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So what do you think is going to propel Litecoin past Bitcoin Cash? Because, and actually this is kind of a secondary question here too. I feel like for a lot of coins, one of the biggest boosts that they get is getting added to a new exchange, right? And Litecoin's already on all of the exchanges. So what type of news and what type of implementation can Litecoin get that will help increase the price, like what we've seen in the past?
So my vision for Litecoin has always been like, initially, so Litecoin initially was a CPU mineable coin, and the reason why I made it that way is because the initial users were miners. Like miners are the one that are big, will help kind of get your message across, help promote Litecoin. So you wanted any everyday people to be able to mine Litecoin initially. So with CPU mine, everyone can mine it, and then it became GPU mineable, and now it's ASIC mineable. But that doesn't matter anymore because now the community has grown past the initial stage. So the second part was to focus on liquidity. So a coin really has to have a high liquidity, high exchange traded volume before anyone can really use it, right? So like if you have a really cool coin but no one's trading it, um, you can't really accept it because as a merchant because you don't have there's no liquidity to support you trading it to US dollar or your fiat currency. So having it supported in all these exchanges, all the different like fiat pairs was really important, and that's what I kind of focused on initially. And now we're going towards like the merchant stage where we want merchant processors to support Litecoin to make it easy for merchants to say, if a merchant decide I want to add Litecoin, it should be very easy for them to kind of just plug and play a merchant processor widget into their site. And we've seen that with like Coinbase Commerce, LightPay and LightPower are working on solutions for Litecoin. There's Alliant Payments, there's GoCoin, there's all these merchant processors that are supporting Litecoin now. And I'm very glad that that's happening, and I expect to see more of that. And just merchant adoption and usage is what will drive Litecoin growth.
Definitely agree. I think it's fair to say that will help growth across many different coins. You know, when people were freaking out a month or so ago during the crash, or maybe it was a few weeks ago, I forget the exact date, but you know, one thing that I just always thought during that was there are people that actually use Bitcoin. There are people that actually use a lot of these coins. And so there will be some base level of utility between what businesses are doing and people actually using the coin that will establish some set price. So, you know, I don't know if that price would have been a 6K Bitcoin like it was, or like a 4K Bitcoin or a 2K Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's never going to zero. Litecoin's never going to zero. The big currencies have too much function and they're being used in too many places for that realistically to happen. So I think that that's a good point for people that are scared when they see the price drop, realizing that there is a baseline. You might not like it. You might not like the price of that baseline, but it does exist, right?
Yeah. I think I made a tweet near the end of last year saying that the price is very volatile. Don't invest money that you can't afford to lose, and that we could easily go into a multi-year bear cycle, and the price could drop 90%. Because I've seen that happen like almost like 3 times already, where the price has dropped 80 to 90% from the high. Like I got into Bitcoin when it was $30, it dropped to $2. I saw it go to 1,000, drop to 300, and went to 10 or like 20, almost 20,000, and dropped to like what 8,000. So, and the problem is like a lot of people hear about crypto when it's going up in price, and when they actually start buying it, it's near the high, and then those are the people that will actually have to or forced to sell when it drops like 80%, and those are the people that are actually going to lose money. So if you can't afford to hold on to your coins and go through this roller coaster, then don't get on the roller coaster.
Would you say maybe people should keep calm and hodl? Would you say that's a good strategy?
That is a good strategy. I think the best strategy is to buy coins, put it away, and forget about it for like 5 years, and then come back and say, "Hey, am I a millionaire yet?"
That's easier said than done. You start
Definitely.
checking the price, and it's
Definitely. You start checking the price every hour or every minute. Yeah, it's hard to get away from it.
I saw a good meme where it was like before crypto, and it showed like picture of like outside, picture of like the moon, picture of like some grassy fields, and then it said after, and then it was just the same pictures, but now they had their phone out with CoinMarketCap.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the meme culture, man. It's so great. It's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of checking price, the sad thing is I sold my coins thinking that price was a distraction and not being a distraction. But now it's becoming more of a distraction because I actually want the price to go past the all-time high more so than if I held the coin, which is like ironic.
Yeah, you know, I definitely when you sold your coins, I definitely felt like you were doing what you thought was the right thing for the long-term success of Litecoin. And I feel like a lot of people were angry at you when that happened. How do you deal with people attacking you for what, you know, your beliefs are, or trying to do the right thing for Litecoin?
Honestly, I don't deal with it very well. Like, I think the best, like, people tell me I should just ignore the haters and just not reply to them, but I have a hard time like ignoring them. I think it's one of my flaws where I have to argue with every single person until I'm right. Which doesn't work when you have like 700,000 followers and half of them want to argue with you. So
You're not going to win that battle, man.
no, I tried.
Sorry not to cut you off. What were you saying?
I said I'll keep trying. I won't give up.
What especially seems to happen is because the cryptocurrency community is so tribal. Everyone loves their coin more than everything else. If you don't like their coin, you're an idiot, right? And so if you find something you don't like, there are going to be people that don't care about what your position is because of the facts and the merit of what you're saying, but because you're hating on the thing that they care about deeply. What are your thoughts on that general mentality in crypto? And also, what do you think that people, like, let's just say you're a diehard Litecoin fan, right? What would be some things that you would tell that person to try and stay grounded when you're looking at news or anything to do with Litecoin?
Well, but to your original question, I think because this is like money, it's even worse, right? Because if I say something, if I like just yesterday, I retweeted a thread about Neo, saying that it's not like their consensus algorithm is broken. And the analysis I thought was pretty solid. But just because I said I retweet, I didn't even say anything myself. I just like kind of spread the message. Just because I did that, I got attacked for saying, why are you spreading FUD on Neo? Because they like people invest in Neo, and if I say something that helps the price to go down, they feel like I'm hurting their investment, and there's no reason why I have to go out of my way to hurt their investment. So it's tough. Everything I say can help or hurt another cryptocurrency, and like a lot of people tell me to stay in my lane. I'm like, what is my lane? Am I just because I created Litecoin, I can't talk about any other currencies? And when I started talking about Bitcoin a lot, Litecoin supporters like stop talking about Bitcoin, talk about your own coin. I'm like, yeah.
You know, at some point, I really just think you just have to not give a fuck, because
I think so.
there will
You're
just
right.
always be people that want to make it about something else, or what you say they don't like to hear. And so like I think that there's just really no way around it. The only way you can really avoid it is by not having opinions. And I mean, that's just super boring. And why would you want to live like that? You know?
Yeah, and my answer to them is a lot of times people tell me to shut up, don't tweet. And the first thing I do is I block them, and so they will never see me tweet again. So if you're listening to me right now and I have you blocked, that's probably why. If you don't want me to block you, then send me a message somewhere else and tell me that you're sorry and won't ask me to shut up again.
No. If you blocked them, they're toast, man. We're not doing that shit. Your time is way too valuable, way too valuable to be unblocking people on Twitter. There's basically anything that you could do is better than that. What are your thoughts on Twitter? Do you like the platform? I mean, it seems like you do. You use it quite often.
I really like Twitter. Recently, it's been like pretty tough with all the scam stuff going on. It's hard to have a conversation on Twitter now. I post something and the top like 20 tweets are all like trying to scam my followers for Ethereum.
Isn't that a giveaway?
It's sad because people do fall for it. It's an easy kind of hole to fall into. I feel sorry for them. But yeah, so it's harder to have a conversation on Twitter today. I hope Twitter actually does something to fix that. I mean, it should be pretty easy to figure out what they're doing and actually like demote them. They already have like below the fold tweets, right? Right. There's like more replies, where some replies might not have a lot of content. They put it below the fold. So they should do the same, or even just outright block these scammers. Just make it more a better platform. But one thing about Twitter is everyone has the same amount of voice. So if you reply to me, I'll see your reply just as easily as I see anyone else's reply. So unlike Reddit, where you can downvote and upvote replies, where the most voted for replies like bubble to the top, Twitter is less of that, so it's a lot more noisy. It's really a lot hard for me to. It's pretty hard these days for me to keep track of all my replies, especially for all the scams going on.
So my opinion on Twitter, I really like it. I would say it's probably my only social platform of like not the video ones, but like actually like, Facebook, Instagram, all those type of platforms. I'd say the only one I really enjoy. I enjoy using Twitter. I like hearing different opinions. I like being able to like respond and talk about things. I felt like as a business, they were doing a terrible job. So last year, I cross-booked Twitter's with another poker player. I won't say who the poker player was, but I basically bet on Twitter's stock to go down, and I bet 5,000 shares at $15. Twitter has been doing quite well over the last few months. So I've been like every day, man. Every day I wake up and I just use Twitter, and I check the Twitter stock price and just hope it goes down. That's me pretty much every day.
So you owe someone 5,000 shares?
I own the difference on 5,000 shares. So like 5,000 times probably almost 20. Was that 100K? Yeah, I owe somebody 100K. I'm leaving the tab open though. I'm hoping eventually they'll crash and burn.
That's gonna be dangerous.
It already is. No, I do like Twitter though. I think it's a lot of fun. I like words over pictures, and I also feel like it's where the conversation is happening for crypto. Like
it is. The conversation has moved to crypto. Moved to Twitter recently. Yeah, I quite like it too.
A good question that someone asked for you was, who are some people that you'd recommend to follow on Twitter if you wanted to stay informed on things that were happening? And they also even put in a little caveat underneath saying that it's actually better if they're small accounts. Like, who are some small accounts that you think are people that you should be interested in following? I mean, really, any size is great.
Other than myself, I don't think anyone is worth following. Not even you, Doug.
Thank you.
Actually, like, I'm trying to think who I follow that. I like what Vitalik Buterin says. I like to follow his account. I mean, he has a lot of followers too. I like Andreas. He always has good things to say. It's funny when he talks about something that's not Bitcoin related, his followers reply and say, "Can you please only talk about Bitcoin?" And he gets really upset.
Everybody gets that, man. It's not just you. Everybody gets that. Like, I'm known more for entertainment and stuff. And so, like, when I try and have an opinion on what I actually think about, like, individual currencies, people are like, stick to comedy, bud. Stick to comedy over there. Everyone gets that. It's just part of the space. It's part of being, a personality, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's like, if you like people, if you want to follow me, then just accept everything I post, right? Or just ignore it if you don't want to. Like, why are you telling me what I should or should not say? It's so stupid.
Yeah, but those are just idiots, though, obviously. All right, so Andreas Antonopoulos, Vitalik, who else? Where's some other accounts? I'm sure there are a couple guys you like their tweets, right?
I like Roger Ver. It's like fun tweet of the day.
Comedy or
comedy? It's funny to see him like attack Bitcoin all the time and just pull out like random charts to say why Bitcoin has failed and why Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin. Actually, I made a tweet making fun of him. I don't know if you saw it. You should look back at my tweet history. I pulled up a chart saying, what did I say? I basically created a chart saying that Bitcoin Core has failed to keep the Bitcoin price from exploding, to make Bitcoin too expensive for the average person.
They did, man.
Yeah,
did.
it's just too expensive now.
Although not so much facts anymore. What are your thoughts on Roger having so much power in the space? Because, I disagree with Roger, but I still do respect what he's done for the space in general. I don't really believe in Bitcoin Cash and what he's doing there. But I mean, the guy has been around for a long time and has done a lot of good things for the community overall. And he still wields a lot of power. Having Bitcoin.com, that's a pretty serious that's a pretty serious platform. What are your thoughts on the role that he plays in Bitcoin today? And do you feel maybe like he's abusing some of that power?
Um, I think he's very passionate. I mean, I was good friends with him. Not sure if he still treats me as a friend, but well, I mean, we're on good terms. And I think he's very passionate about Bitcoin. I think he's a little bit misguided because I mean, he thinks it's his opinion, right? He thinks Bitcoin has veered away from what he valued about Bitcoin, and I can't. That's you can't say he's wrong because that's his opinion. So if he thinks Bitcoin is this, um, it's not up to me to say he's wrong, right? So I can disagree with him, but it's his belief, and I don't think it's also fair to say he's abusing his powers because Bitcoin in the end is a decentralized currency. So if people really back him and he believes Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin and there's actually real people actually back that, then it is what it is. So they want to call it Bitcoin, fine. I don't agree with you, but there's nothing I can do to stop you from doing that. And I think for Bitcoin to thrive, there has to be an ability for that to happen, right? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin, right? Maybe in the future, like Bitcoin Cash does overtake Bitcoin and it becomes the real Bitcoin, and I don't have control over that, and that's right. Like it wouldn't be right for anyone to say like, Roger, you can't own Bitcoin.com because you're not supporting Bitcoin. I think that would be wrong.
Right, but he also uses the Bitcoin Twitter account, I believe, as well as him. I could be wrong. And Bitcoin.com, and even like having a subreddit called BTC when it's Bitcoin Cash. Do you feel like that maybe misleads people that are new and don't understand exactly what's going on into thinking that it's Bitcoin when it's actually, at least in my opinion, more of an altcoin?
Um, I think it definitely misleads people. But back to the same thought is I think it is what it is. And similarly, like for like freedom of speech, right? You have to let people who don't agree with you be able to say stuff, right? You can't just silence them, right? Because we live in democracy. So for decentralized currency, he has his platform. He can try to convince people or mislead or confuse people if that's what you think he's doing. It is what it is.
All right, let's move on to our last few topics we've got here. Now, I'm not sure if you're too familiar with the channel, Charlie, but the people here, we like our cheap hot altcoins. We really love our cheap and hot alts. So let's talk about a few currencies that are getting spammed here in the chat box that people really want us to talk about. And let's start off with talking about IOTA. Now, I remember your tweet about IOTA saying that they rolled their own crypto. What are your general thoughts on IOTA? Do you still feel the same that you did before? I mean, I know a lot of people are worried about the security side. I don't know if you can see the chat right now, Charlie, but there are people who want the cheap hot alts.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, they're cheap and hot. So what are your thoughts on IOTA?
So I haven't spent too much time looking at IOTA. So I did comment on it, but without like really spending the time to figure out what's true and what's false. So I only know what I heard, right? So, and what I kind of superficially looked at. So they rolled their own crypto. They like wrote their own, I think, hashing function, and which was broken. And it's a sign of someone who doesn't know what they're doing, right? So writing your own crypto function. The other thing is that it's centralized, first of all. So they have the central coordinator that decides which transaction go in. And supposedly, theoretically, that will go away as the network grows. It can be more decentralized. It can be controlled without a coordinator. And people I've talked to don't believe that's true. Like this is just, it's going to stay centralized forever. It's just something that you can't remove. Otherwise, you can get attacked. I don't know if that's true, but at least right now it's centralized. So that's definitely something against it. And third, recently, a lot of their coins got hacked because they actually recommended people to the official wallet recommended people to come up with their own seed, and it's like kind of pretty stupid because they pointed people to seed online seed generators because people aren't good at creating their own seed. So I'm not sure why the wallet would decide to not create a seed for the user and ask people to find the seed elsewhere. So people relied on a third-party seed generator, which turned out to be a scam that kept all their coins, all the seeds that it generated, and just stole all the coins. So that kind of stuff is just kind of stupid. Why they would have a official wallet that recommends you to kind of get the most crucial, secure part of your money from someone else. So things like that it doesn't sound like it's a coin that I want to invest in. So I didn't invest in IOTA, and I probably won't unless something drastically changes. And I also don't believe that the technology, it's like more marketing than like the whole DAG thing, where it just seems like it doesn't really fit what it's trying to do, being like the Internet of Things coin. But I don't know. I don't know the future. I mean, it's worth quite a bit, so some people believe in it.
Our last guest on the podcast, Richard Hart, said a wallet where you have to make your own seed is not a wallet. I believe it were his words about the subject. Yeah, I mean, like the problem for me, Charlie, is like I'm really not an expert at all on any of the tech stuff. So when I see all of these trendy new terms, I try and like I am a marketer. So I try and see like if my marketer senses go off that we've got some like total bullshit going on. But like, if someone wants to explain how this is groundbreaking tech that's going to change everything, I can't really say that they're wrong because how am I supposed to know that they're wrong? So what would you recommend to people that are maybe new or don't really understand the technical side of things? What can they do to try and prevent themselves from getting involved in something that really might just be more marketing and not actual substance?
I would say just don't invest in it. Like, if you don't understand it, don't invest in it. So a lot of people fall for the hype, right? Also the FOMO, if you're missing out. So they're like, oh my god, this is the latest greatest. They have to invest in it just in case they miss out. I would say, I mean, be conservative. Put all your money in the top few cryptocurrencies that you like, the ones that you actually understand, right? If you want to be really conservative, put all your money in Bitcoin. You can't really go wrong putting all your money in Bitcoin. So just don't. Yeah, you might not make a lot of money when certain X and X coin goes up by 10 times because it got hyped. But if you are playing this game, then just accept the fact that you can get burned.
That's fair enough. All right, let's talk about Monero. I know you have good things to say about Monero. I certainly am a big fan of all of the privacy coins. I think that long run, those will have a lot of utility. I am a little worried as to maybe what legislation could look like down the road when it comes to the privacy coins. But as for now, it doesn't really seem to be too much on the radar, at least with the SEC. They're much more worried about ICOs, and I think that's going to kind of be the focus of the government for the time being. But anonymous transactions, that just makes sense to me as having value. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think I've said this previously. One of the features of money that is missing the most from Bitcoin and Litecoin is fungibility. So Bitcoin and Litecoin, they're like really good money. If you look at all the properties of good money, except for the fact that they're not really fungible. So by that, it means that if I get one Bitcoin, it's different from another Bitcoin I get. It's not exactly the same. If I get two $1 bills, they're pretty much exactly the same. I can spend it anywhere and it'll be accepted as $1 value. Whereas if I get one Bitcoin, it may not be accepted the same because of the history attached to Bitcoin. And given the fact that you got banned from Coinbase, you know this really, well, right? So it's not good money when it's not the same money. Someone sent you Bitcoin you withdrew Bitcoin from a poker site, and all of a sudden, like, you got banned. Or the fact that if you sent like $5 to Starbucks and then they know like you made $10,000 a year, how's that good money? So privacy is what solves that, right? The fact that you can hide the amount or hide the sender. I think that's very important, and that's something that I believe eventually will go into Bitcoin, and I'm also working towards it going to Litecoin. So something like confidential transactions is stuff that I'm really excited about. Actually, it going live on Litecoin and Bitcoin. I like Monero because the one thing it does better than I think Bitcoin and Litecoin ever will is that it's 100% private. Every transaction is private. So there's no, with Bitcoin and Litecoin, if we do get fungibility, it will be opt-in, at least the way I see it right now, where you can opt in to create a confidential transaction. But by default, it won't be confidential. So if some transactions are confidential, some aren't, you can still like kind of try to follow stuff around, try to kind of de-anonymize transactions. But with Monero, everything is private. So if you start using Monero, you can't track anything. And I think that is what makes it really worth it, more so than Zcash, because Zcash is also opt-in privacy.
Can you explain? I didn't know that it was opt-in privacy.
Yeah, with Zcash, you can send in the clear transactions, or you can send private transactions. And private transactions uses more resources, also costs more in fees. So I think most people actually just use in the clear transactions or Zcash. From last I saw, the stats were almost everything is not private.
Doesn't Dash have something similar?
Dash, I think a lot of people will call Dash's privacy fake privacy. So Dash tries to be private, but I don't think it does it. It's not like on the level of ring signatures or ZK snarks.
Okay,
It's
cool.
kind of just like kind of hiding some stuff around, shuffling some stuff around.
Nice. Also, as a quick reminder, or maybe even announcement to you guys, I've been in the process of talking with Fluffy Pony, Ricardo Spagni, the founder, or one of the two founders of Monero. We're going to be getting him at the podcast sometime, hopefully in early April. So that should be another fun one coming up for you guys. All right, let's talk about one or two more here. So you tweeted about something recently that was positive about Nano. And so what are your thoughts on Nano?
So I took a look at their technology. I talked to their developers, their community a bit. I kind of like their approach. So they're doing something that's kind of very different from how Bitcoin and Litecoin is approaching it. So what they're doing is they focus on free transactions, so no transaction fees, and that's like, and they base everything around that. And they're using blockchain in a unique way, where they're using proof of work to prevent spam. So you have to, when you send transactions, you have to do some work. So unlike with Bitcoin and Litecoin, miners do the proof of work calculations. With Nano, every client, when you're sending transactions or when you're receiving transactions, you do some work. So it prevents you from sending like millions of transactions for free. And then they use proof of stake to kind of to resolve double spends. So if anyone is sending two transactions that conflict with each other, then delegated proof of stake comes in, where the delegates actually vote on which one is the right one. So it's kind of a unique approach, where using proof of work for spam deterrent and proof of stake for double spend protection. So I found that to be kind of interesting, novel, and I think they will have. I've always like said that there's no such thing as free lunch. You have to compromise somewhere, right? There's nothing is going to be free, infinitely scalable, and still be perfectly decentralized and perfectly secure, right? There's not. That's a unicorn. So you're not gonna be able to find that. But they're optimizing on different things, and I think they're gonna have a hard time being decentralized, because it's going to be delegated proof of stake, and it's going to be centralized around a few players. It's going to be a tough problem for them, but I like the approach and I like the team. So I made I would say a slightly positive tweet about it, and people got really upset that I'm shilling Nano.
Come on, man. You're supposed to be shilling Litecoin. What are you doing?
Exactly. And then the other thing is trying to be good, right? I actually said that I own some Nano, because just like as a disclaimer, right? When you see people write articles about a stock, you see a disclaimer saying I own the stock or I don't. So I did the same thing, right? I want to be transparent and say that I actually own this stock. So take it with a grain of salt. Maybe I'm saying good things about it because I want the price to go up. So it's not, I have some sort of incentive to say good things about it. So take it with a grain of salt. And then I got a lot of replies saying that it's nice that you're saying good things about Nano, another project, but you shouldn't disclose what you say, that you own it. By disclosing that you own it, you're actually shilling for the project. I'm like, you can't win.
No, what you did is actually just legally correct. You should always, if you give financial advice or you say anything about financial matters, you should always disclose what you're doing. That's
what
just
I
like,
thought too.
yeah, just
But then the fact that I said I own it gave it more credibility. So people actually bought it because they say, oh, Charlie actually vetted it and actually owns it himself, so it must be good. So I can see why people are upset that I said I owned it. So
yeah, but you have to do it. Like legally, legally, like this isn't like an opinion matter here, Charlie. Like this is like a legal thing. Like you should disclose what you're doing. Like
I agree. That's why I did it. But yeah, people online just, you can't win.
yeah, I understand. All right, any other projects that you're interested in? Maybe some small upcoming projects, some recent ICOs, some small cap things. Anything that you're particularly interested in what they're working on out there?
I'm very excited about like Lightning Networks, obviously. I'm excited about bulletproofs. So trying to make confidential transactions smaller, more compact, more efficient. I think that's come a long ways. And I'm excited to see that actually make it viable for us to add confidential transactions to Litecoin and Bitcoin.
Okay, cool. All right, that pretty much wraps up here. I think we managed to get through all these topics. I want to say thanks again for coming on today. It was great to have you. I'm sure that the people in the chat, we got a lot of Litecoin fans in there that were excited to see you here today too, and I appreciate all of the knowledge.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Doug.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning into today's podcast with Charlie Lee. This will be rendered and uploaded afterwards. And we're also eventually going to get these over onto iTunes. So if you want to be able to listen to this on the go, you're going to be able to do so. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We got a lot more exciting podcasts coming up in the near future. We're going to be figuring out guests for the next few weeks. I'll make sure to keep you up to date with what's going on. You can always check it out over on Twitter at DougPolkPoker if you want to know what we've got coming up. That's going to do it for me, guys. Once again, I want to say thank you to Charlie and the audience. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys again soon.